Let's talk about manufacturing and investments. There was a slew of PLI schemes announced by the government in the previous year. The hope is that we will now actually start to see money hitting ground and investments starting on that front. There's also the hope that finally, as far as the semiconductor space is concerned, India will attract dollars into that space. What's the indication that you get, especially when we link PLI to manufacturing and fresh investments?
No, sorry, I didn't get the last part of what you asked, Shireen.
I was asking you, in light of the fact that PLI schemes have already been announced, manufacturing, the hope is that we will start to see fresh investments. When you converge the aspiration that the government has to position India as a manufacturing hub in light of the PLI schemes, do you start to see investments now?
Absolutely. I think that's happening. The PLI scheme in specific sectors has really helped. And electronics manufacturing is a case in point. India was one of the biggest importers of mobile phones, for instance, and now today India is growing to be one of the biggest producers of mobile phones, right? So I think these incentives are important. For a long time, governments have been trying to increase manufacturing in India. I think this is one way, one initiative which can be successful, and I think we are starting to see the elements of that. And also, it's very focused, right? I mean, you picked up sectors which need the support for investment to come in. Semiconductors, when you take semiconductors, whether it's Taiwan, whether it's China, anybody else who's making semiconductors has started with support from the governments. So I think it's good that the government is putting in a lot of money in those areas, because these are going to be technologies for the future, and India needs to build that ecosystem for that for the future. So I think there's interest from industry both in India and overseas, and we are seeing things happen.
You talked about capacity utilization, and what we have seen so far is still wait and watch on the part of industry because fresh capacity hasn't been added yet, and there is still concern on demand visibility. But do you believe that we could start to see fresh investments coming in?
Yeah, I think if I take the sector that I'm from, the metal sector, there's already 100,000 crores of investments which have been announced for the next few years. I think the steel industry alone is investing 15 to 20,000 crores a year. So I think we're seeing that come back. Chemicals, I think, is strong. 10 years back, it was power, but I don't see thermal power plants coming back. But there are other areas like electronics manufacturing where there's investments coming in. Also green energy, a lot of investments coming in. Investments are also coming in supply chains, industrial buildings, supply chains, etc. So I think there are many areas where we are seeing investments come in. And big ones will be metals and mining and places like that.
Okay, metals and mining is places where we could possibly see the investment cycle turn. What would you qualify as some of the big risks and the big challenges? We've spoken of some, especially as far as commodity prices are concerned, inflation, and of course what happens with each COVID wave that we are dealing with. But outside of that, what would you say will be the big challenges that industry is preparing itself for?
I think two, like you said, COVID and interest rates are certainly risks. Geopolitical risks are always there, and that has an impact on supply chains and can disrupt supply chains. And pretty much any industry has international linkage as far as supply chains are concerned. So geopolitical risk, climate-related risks, again, some of it may be because of disruptive weather events, which are becoming more frequent and again can disrupt supply chains. But also I can see in places like Europe, you have, let's say, a carbon border adjustment mechanism and things like that. So I think India needs to also prepare for a greener future, because as much as we have our goals for the country, the rest of the world, particularly geographies which are moving faster, will also make sure that their local industry is not disadvantaged because of the additional cost that they will have to incur to make the transition. So we just need to watch out for these things. And the other thing is, of course, from an overall point of view, we need to make sure how can we work on inequality, because that is manifesting itself in different ways in different countries, and we just need to make sure that in India, which is a large, young country with a lot of people coming into the job market every year, we address this issue of jobs. Otherwise, we'll have issues to deal with from a societal point of view.
Yes, the jobs challenge is going to be an important one and a complex one that industry as well as the government will have to address. But you talked about young India. What we've seen through the course of 2021 has been the emergence of new age companies, some even getting listed on Dalal Street. We've, of course, seen family offices investing. Domestic capital is moving towards investing in some of these companies. Do you see more of that continuing? And what role do you see incumbents, the large incumbents, playing in this space in collaborating with the startup ecosystem?
So I think that's been a great development for India, the startup ecosystem, the number of unicorns that we are creating. I think we have over 60 or 70 unicorns now in India. It's amazing. And a lot of them, more than half of them have come in the last year or 12 months or 18 months. So it's fantastic because I think in many ways India is ripe for this kind of activity because firstly, we've created that technology foundation, because India has created that structure, whether it's a unified payment interface, whether it is the Aadhaar card and the data which is available, as a foundation for that. So there's a lot that we've been created and also the digital infrastructure that's being created in the country. So India's, a young country from a demographic point of view with technology infrastructure, which is better than many other countries. So that's very positive. Secondly, we traditionally had a lot of entrepreneurs. Many of them have gone outside the country because of lack of opportunities within the country. So today, there are many first-generation entrepreneurs and there are many other entrepreneurs who are seeing these opportunities and creating new companies. And thirdly, when we come back to jobs, you need more and more job creators. If we have a lot of job seekers, but you need more and more job creators. And I think the startup ecosystem is doing that. They're also delivering more efficiently a lot of services using innovative methods. There's also a lot of financial inclusion happening because of technology use in that space. So I think there are multiple things happening. There are a lot of social entrepreneurs who are using technology as well. And big companies are seeing this as an opportunity not only to, kind of integrate them into their value chains from having more innovative and efficient solutions to the products and services that they consume or sell, but also as an investment opportunity. And so there are multiple ways, whether it's through family offices, whether it's corporates having a structured way of dealing with startups. It's a great way to drive the innovation quotient up in this country and also to do it in a manner which really is driven by the younger demographic. So I'm very positive about this and I'm very excited about it.
Well, that's good to hear. So let me end then by asking you, you give us a sense of what the mood is across industry, but let me specifically ask you about Tata Steel, both in terms of expansion, investment, outlook in terms of prices and demand. What does the year ahead look like?
Well, we are positive. We are in the middle of expansion. In the middle of a 25,000 crore expansion in Kalinganagar, which is going to expand the capacity by another 5 million tons. We have the potential to grow to about 40 million tons by the end of the decade. If the demand is strong, we have the opportunity to do that. So I think we are very positive. India is a growing market for steel, and Tata Steel is one of the most profitable steel companies in the world. So we are, we've deleveraged and we are investing the money, the cash flows that we have very prudently into opportunities to grow in the Indian market, and we will continue to grow in the Indian market.
Would those opportunities include M&A as well?
Well, just now we are looking at organic growth because we have enough opportunities for organic growth in our existing sites. We are, of course, participating in the, divestment process, disinvestment process, and let's see where it goes.
All right, Mr. Narendran, thanks so much for joining us. Here's wishing you and everyone else at CII the very best of luck. We appreciate your time, and we, of course, will check back in with you on the 1st of February when the Finance Minister delivers Budget 2022. Well, we will take a break here on the Budget Countdown. Don't go anywhere. We're back in a moment with a lot more.